Now, this is my hybrid melee range build that focuses on the sort of medium range aspect of PvE and PvP, most importantly here, is this sort of covers, in my opinion, all aspects of the game. You have a few alternate equips you can do with this spec as well, and we'll jump onto the gear later, but I want to start off with the skill trees first, because that is kind of the meat and bones. So, you saw at the start of the video, you saw a combo setup where I used Crippling Strike, which locks them in the ground for 5 seconds where they can only walk. Then I drop a mine, which they cannot physically escape, and then they are locked in a massive bubble that is consecutively draining their shield at the same time. And this is in a very, very strong combo. It's one of my favorite combos currently, and why I wanted to make a video about it. So as you can see, the sort of layout here is Sugar Wire, of course being a pretty mandatory mobility or stagger option. Then we have our Gravity Mine and our Crippling Strike, and this is, I quickly want to mention, this is the GVG kits. We have Death from Above, again amplifying our damage on range weapons, and we use our suspensors, pretty stock standard there. We're using Center of Mass here. I would usually go for Marksman, but it's not near as consistent, and getting headshots in this game in PvP is not really a thing, especially if they have a shield on. It's not going to proc with many weapons, but Center of Mass will. It's going to be way more consistent. So we pick up a Center of Mass. We have the Suspensor Dash, most importantly our third technique there. Even after the nerf, I still highly recommend this technique. Now I quickly want to switch over to the 1v1 build, which is simply putting Thrive on Danger over Death from Above. Thrive on Danger simply gives us a bunch of buffs when our HP is below 30%, which allows us to have a lot more self-sustain in those 1v1 or 1vx encounters should you get into them. So that's sort of what I wanted to include in the build, is that you have a few options to alternate between depending on the situation. So if you're GVG, you don't really need Thrive on Danger because you should have your guildies to back you up. But when you're in a 1v1 situation or 1vx, you do not have that option, right? So we need a little bit more buffs and passives to help us out in the long run. Now, on the other note, there is one more tree that I wanted to include in this spec, and that is the Raiding and Anti-Aircraft kit, which uses the Energy Capsule ability. So I made sure to pick that up. We're going to put that over any ability. It doesn't really matter, whatever one you feel comfortable replacing. When you're using your H&Way or ground launcher on Ornithopters, this is simply going to give you a massive 35% increase on damage, which is incredibly nice. So that is sort of the main 3 specs. We went over the GVG, the 1v1, and the anti-aircraft equips. They're pretty, not much changes, which is nice. They're pretty similar in how they play out, what they use. But they have a quick, like maybe one ability alternating or one technique alternating that you can quickly swap out, depending. Now, I also picked up the Collapse and the Anti-Gravity Field, because these are alternate abilities that you could use that could play pretty well in the situation you're facing, especially GVG. Anti-Gravity Field is pretty OP right now, so this could be a good replacement depending on how you play for Sugar Wire. Even if you're playing in GVG, the Sugar Wire is actually a lot less effective, because while the mobility is nice, in GVG you might not need it as much. You've still got your Suspensor Dash to up and out if you need it. So having the Anti-Gravity Field is pretty nice as well. You also have the Collapse Grenade. We'll put a clip in here of that, where we use the Collapse Grenade to actually pull someone out of their base in a PvP zone because they were camping inside of it. To put in perspective, it was full loot this week, so we actually had a reason to kill players and get their gear. So it might seem toxic, but you got to understand we actually had a proper reward, a proper gain to killing anyone we saw in the deep desert. We got their whole kit, right? So we went after, killing anyone we could. And that is the point of PvP. We PvP'd, we got their gear. And I absolutely love full loot PvP, but not many people participated in that decree that week, which is also understandable. But the people that did, it was very fun, and it had a lot of gain to it if you knew what you were doing. Also had a lot of loss, the high risk, high reward factor. Enough about full loot PvP. I have a full video coming on that soon that has got a lot of fun clips and drama in it. I can't wait to share that with you guys. But back on the build here, we have covered all 3 of our equips, what I use with each of them, our alternate equips as well. We can quickly put on our main equip again, so I'm going to put these back on. So our Sugar Wire Anti-Gravity Mine. And then we can go over the passives. So I pick up all of the range damage passives, even though these are pretty small multipliers in actuality, it is still good to min-max, and more to the point, we have a lot of skill points to use, so we might as well min-max our damage in any way we can, even though I believe Vash made a video about how the multipliers work and such. I think it's still worth it to min-max our damage. And again, we're picking up the middle passive here in Suspensor Training. Very, very important is our Suspensor Training is going to be 20% less. And stacking that with a chest piece later on, it's going to be a further 20% less, which means we're going to be able to use our suspensors a lot more, which is really nice. Jumping over to the Mentat tree, we're also picking up the range passives here on the left side. We have to pick up the turret just because. And in the middle tree, we have to pick up poison just because to get the other two range passives. Now, Assassin Shot, I quickly want to mention here, you don't have to grab this if you don't want to. Assassin Shot is kind of got a very small hit cone, I believe, on the back. So it's not going to actually proc that much. But again, if you're like me and you want to min-max your damage in every way you can, you're probably going to lean towards picking it up just because, in case it does happen, in the case that you do hit that little hitbox, you know what I mean? So on the right side again, we have to pick up the shield wall, which is really bad, by the way, to get gravity mine. And then we go to the planetologist. Now, there's actually something new here that I didn't realize in my past builds, and that is the rerouting and the overcharge passives. Rerouting gives us 10% faster power regeneration on our power pack, and overcharge gives us 40 more power. This is extremely strong, especially for a build or player like me, where I tend to use my suspensors a lot, and it's going to be very helpful in the long run, so I highly recommend getting these passives to level 3. It's going to be very worthwhile. Now back to Bene Gesserit. Bene Gesserit, we don't actually pick up much at all on this tree. We pick up Bind Sprint level 1 as an alternate spec for mobility, but we don't go further than level 1 because we don't need to. I don't plan to use Bind Sprint more than, you know, in a mobility situation with Ornithopters and I'm rocket bunnying. If you don't know what rocket bunnying is, you basically get out your Ornithopter, pocket it midair, and shoot a launcher at an Ornithopter, like a handheld launcher, like Ancient Way. But that is pretty much all I use Bind Sprint for, is air mobility in dogfighting if I want to, you know, do rocket bunnying. But other than that, it's, you know, not really something that I rely on as much as I used to, especially with how well this build plays and being confrontational and, you know, forcing the engagement rather than leaving the engagement. I feel confident in this kit with being the engager, not the disengager. That's basically the gist I have and how I personally feel, and that this build gives me a lot of confidence. Now, in the body control in the last section, we pick up a few passives here. We pretty much are just aiming to get the level 3 vitality here. That's the most important thing, so we definitely get that there. Now over to the Swordmaster, we actually pick up a lot of passives here. We get the melee damage passive, so blade damage. We get level 1 Blade of Dance. Now, I'm not going to be using this, but it just is required to pick up to get long blade damage, because we're going to be using rapiers and swords, depending on what you have at the time. Again, we go up the middle tree to get Iron Will, or Thrive on Danger, sorry, which is, you know, kind of a need for the 1vx, 1v1 playstyle. And then on the way, the last tree here, we pick up a level 1 knee charge. I don't like knee charge for this build. Knee charge is also very clunky lately and hard to hit in PvP, as it's got this really weird lock-on going on that can sometimes actually make you miss. And something quickly I want to bring up is I really wish you could turn off the melee aim assistance in this game, because I do not like it. I would rather aim my melee attacks than be forced onto a target, as it more often than not fucks with me than helps me. So, Funcom, please remove that shit, or at least give us a toggle to turn it off. I hate it. So again, we go up the left side here to pick up the Crippling Strike level 1. We of course pick up both of the stam passives at level 3 here, Optimized Hydration and General Conditioning. Very important at having more stamina, especially for this build, where we are mixing in a little bit of melee, and we want that for our melee attacks should we use them. So that's pretty much all the passives and the, I guess, general equips of the build, the playstyle, the synergies I have going on, and we can quickly jump onto the armor I use and everything like that. Again, I have a website in the description where you can quickly reference elements of the build I use without having to reference a timeline in a video. And this could be pretty helpful, especially if you prefer reading as well. So jumping onto the website, there's a big image of the skill trees and the equips in the bottom left as well, so you can quickly reference them there too. But scrolling down, we can see the weapons that I use, the weapons that I have and prefer, or I'm trying to get rather. So this is the ultimate best in slot equipped for each weapon I want or have. If you don't have them, and I quickly want to mention this, the weapons for the kit or the gear for the kit, you can just use a tier 6 Chome common gear piece. Now, while they are not as strong, they're definitely a lot weaker, not having the unique effects as well. There's a good placeholder or filler piece until you get the gear you need. Now, I quickly want to mention that tier 5 uniques, while some of them can be okay, like the Prephs Beast, which is the tier 5 version of the Dune Watcher, can be a fantastic alternative, but it does have a lot of downsides in damage and single target damage. It's, in my opinion, better to just go with a tier 6 Regis spit dart, but to each their own. If you have Prephs Beast, it can be a good placeholder until you get a Dune Watcher. So anyways, without further ado, we are running the Static Needle, which is a tier 6 unique rapier that is actually going to disrupt the power supply of our opponents. Now, I can't remember the exact amount that it fucks with it. I think it's like 20 power per hit. It's not much, but it's enough to make it useful. And rapier has very fast jabby attacks where that 20 per hit can add up very quickly. 5 hits, that's 100 power gone from the enemy. So that is a very strong rapier that hasn't been in rotation yet. I'm hoping it comes up soon because I would really like one of these. Until then, I've been using the Helix Pick, which is the Poison Mist rapier, which is also very strong. But again, before you get either of those, you can also just use the tier 6 common rapier as well, which is also pretty strong. Again, next up is the Dune Watcher, in my opinion, the best tier 6 sniper in the game. Single target, has up to, I think, 360 or 380 damage per shot if you hit them. Of course, it's not going to go through the shield, but the poison effect will. It has a poison damage over time, which isn't going to do a crazy amount of damage, but it's enough to be annoying. Next up is the Ambition. This is one of my favorite weapons in the entire game. This is not just any drill shot that burrows darts through the shield. It is a drill shot that has 4 rounds per magazine. If you've watched my Twitch streams, you've seen me use this religiously. It is one of my favorite weapons in the game, and the fact that it has 4 rounds per magazine makes it extremely OP, as the reload time of the drill shot is quite long, and being able to get another 2 shots off before needing to reload makes it very powerful on the field. Next up is the Perforator. This is a new weapon that wasn't in my past kits, but is very strong in this kit. This is a scattergun, a unique scattergun that has a bleeding effect when it hits a player, but not only that, it also staggers enemies when they use gear tiered below yours. And what I mean by that is if you're running tier 6 gear and they're running tier 5 gear, or even just one piece of tier 5 gear, you will actually stagger them with their shotgun, which makes it great for melee entries or drill shot entries as well. But not only that, it is one of the best weapons for finishing down players. It has the highest per pellet bullet damage in the game, or dart damage in the game. I believe it has something crazy like 550, I'll put it up on screen, 550 or so damage provided you hit all the pellets. And hitting all of the pellets is actually extremely easy on a knocked player, which makes it powerful for getting those finishes, especially in GVG, where you might be knocking a lot of players and not getting that opportunity to get close and finish them with melee. That is where the Perforator comes in. It is one of the best down killing weapons in the game, or knock killing weapons in the game. Next up is the Ancient Way. This is going to be one of your best friends when it comes to anti-aircraft. It's also one of the rarest blueprints in the game. It is worth probably millions of Solari. I would even go as far as to say the Ancient Way is worth more than 10 million Solari. Fuck it, I'll probably say it's worth 15 million Solari, probably even more. In fact, I don't even think this thing is worth Solari. I don't think any amount of Solari could make of how rare this thing is currently, because we have not seen it in the Deep Desert rotation. Whenever the Ancient Way comes up in rotation, that will be one of the most competitive PvP weeks in the game. Now, if you're wondering what makes the Ancient Way so strong, is it has heat-seeking missiles. The standard tier 6 rocket launcher, handheld rocket launcher, does not have heat-seeking. The Ancient Way does. This is what makes it so fucking OP. It is one of the best weapons in the game. I'd recommend getting it. If you're lucky enough to get it from a Landsrad weapons decree like my guild was, or my faction was on my server, find yourself in a very strong position on the field if your opponents don't have it. Very, very good piece of kit. Next up is the Regis Disruptor Pistol, which you would have seen at the start of the video. Is again another extremely strong weapon in the kit. Second favorite of mine to the Ambition. It's going to be great for killing people and breaking shields of people that are stuck in our cripple Mentat mine combo. Those people that are stuck in that bubble, that anti-gravity bubble, are going to be pretty much killed and confirmed dead when you use the Regis Disruptor. Now, again, Regis Disruptor, as of right now, as of you're watching this video on the day it was made, has not been in rotation yet, making it extremely rare. I believe it might have been in a rotation in week 1, which not many people had the opportunity to get. So there's a very small amount of players that actually have this pistol. Until then, you can use the Regis, not the Regis, the Adept, which I think is the tier 5 Disruptor pistol, which is a good placeholder. It's still going to stagger, it's still going to break shields in a few hits. It's not going to be near as strong as the Regis. The Regis can break enemy shields within 2 hits. It is pretty fucking strong. And is one of my second favorite again at breaking enemy shields, especially as a ranged player, using the combo I showed at the start of the video. Next up is our fairly common utility here, Power Pack Mark 6, Holzman Mark 5, and our full suspensor belt. I quickly want to leave a mention here. Full suspensors break very fast. I tend to carry about 5 to 7 of them on me at a time, and that is not a joke. If you watch my Twitch streams whenever I open my inventory, I just have probably half my inventory full of suspensor belts and Decker Leader-Johns because I'm always out in the deep desert. Next up is our armor. Our armor is a little bit different from my previous builds as we're focusing on light armor with a little bit of blade mitigation here. So we have the pincushion helmet, which is going to give us a blade, dart, and heavy dart mitigation, which is really nice. And it also is, again, a unique that is on rotation quite a lot. It was on rotation this week, so hopefully you got one of those in your set or learned one of those uniques in your set. Next up, an Idaho's Charge, which has also been in a couple weeks. Not this week, but it was in the week and the week before that, I believe. And Idaho's Charge gives us another 20% less reduction on our suspensor use, which as I said, stacking with that passive that we picked up on, I believe, the Trooper Tree, is going to give us a total 40% reduction on suspensor use, making it very powerful and one of my favorite pieces in the game currently. And we can take this even further with these Circuit Gauntlets, which is another unique that hasn't been in rotation yet, but I got it from the Armor Landsrad Decree vendor that Faction 1 in one of the Landsrad weeks. This provides another 10% reduction in power use, so this is just general power use, 10% less overall no matter what, which is really fucking good. Stacking that with Idaho's Charge, with the passive on the Trooper Tree, that is a total, I think, 50% less power use on suspensors, meaning we have 50% more uptime in the air if we really wanted to, and just fly around, which makes it extremely broken. Next up is the 9 core leggings, which is or 10 core leggings, I don't even fucking know. But these have a minus 10% stamina use on dash, which makes them very strong for 1vx and 1v1 situations, especially when stacked with our Thrive on Danger technique that I showed at the start of the video for our 1v1 and 1vx equips. Next up is the pincushion boots. The pincushion boots are just, again, like the pincushion helmets. They have light, heavy, and blade mitigation. They have the big 3, but they do lose a little bit out on the stamina dash cost for light armor as well. But getting all 3 of those mitigations in one piece of armor is really freaking nice. So that is the majority of the kit here, and pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Again, I've got my website in the description if you prefer checking things out by image and words rather than through a video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of the kit, and if you have any suggestions for videos going forward, for builds going forward, and what you might want me to try out. I'm always interested. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.